I'll have to get you a cushion mount for that microphone. We can hear the typing. Sounds like somebody drumming. Yeah. Well, not right now. You were in a minute. Yeah. So. Yep. Nah, it's okay for now. So, are you ready? We'll do a quick audio check here. If you're in the live stream, if you can let us know if you can hear both Mac and I.
Testing 1, 2. I went ahead and put that on a mouse pad.
Okay, that should help a little bit.
Makes any difference.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Let's see, I'll put it in Discord. Karen's in Discord. There, somebody's starting to show up. Yep, Dave says he hears us both loud and clear. They hear us both.
It's a good start.
That is a good start. So we'll fade back to the home screen just so we got something clean. And then we'll go ahead and get on started. Scuba Obsessed, a weekly podcast. We talk about all things scuba diving, from cool new gear to places to dive and scuba news. Scuba Obsessed, episode 526 is recorded live February 17th, 2022. Welcome back to Scuba Obsessed. I'm Darren Gilson, coming to you from the southwest side of the great state of Michigan, where we can't decide if it's warm or cold. Joining me this week, we have Mac, the Dive Mentor. How you doing today, Mac?
I'm doing very well. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's a little unusual weather. I mean, we like to advertise that we got some extremes, but how warm did it get a couple days ago?
50 degrees yesterday.
50 degrees yesterday.
It went from 50 this morning. It changed to 30. I had green grass this morning, and now it's covered again.
A couple days before that, I think I had 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, and then they were saying we were supposed to get an ice storm earlier today, and it didn't happen. And then I left work about 4 o'clock, and it was starting to come down. I think we've got 6-8 inches now.
And the roads were getting a little icy because my daughter came home a couple hours after you and said there's some really crazy people out there.
There are a lot of people who should not be out. I mean, it's one of those things. If you don't need to go out, don't go out. But and I'm one of the people who go out almost all the time, but I've got the vehicle for it. Except for what I always say is, nothing stops on ice. You just slide. 4-wheel drive, you're still gonna do some sliding around. So I'd like to thank everybody who's in the chat room. We have Karen and Dave so far we've seen in there, so thank you for showing up. Thank you to all our listeners and subscribers. Get ready for a slug of episodes. At some point, I'm going to get all these edited out. I've got like 2 or 3 almost done, and then we'll get caught back up. And I've got a plan. Famous last words. I have a plan. So let's go ahead and jump right on into the news. First article we have up, Dave, who's actually in the chat room, put us on to this one. It's covered in a few different sources, and it's a rare event. Simon Nellist, a Sydney shark victim named locally as a British man. The 35-year-old British man had been named as victim in Sydney's first fatal shark attack in nearly 60 years. A friend confirmed Simon Nellis died in an attack on Wednesday. Police have not formally identified the victim, and his family will not comment. Australian authorities are still searching for the great white shark, which swimmers banned from the water, and most city beaches shut after Wednesday's attack. He was a diving instructor. Was mauled by great white shark just off Little Bay in East Sydney. He was a member of the city's scuba diving social club and regular swimmer at the beach. BBC Sydney correspondent reports. The UK Foreign Office spokesman said councillor staff will be in touch with New South Wales Police. We are supporting the family of the British man, and our thoughts are with him at this difficult time. Shark attacks in Sydney are uncommon because the city has long had nets and other deterrents in the water. On Thursdays, surf lifesavers and jet skis patrolled a 25-kilometer stretch of the water from Bondi to the city's east to Cornelia in the south to find the attack. Authorities were also using helicopters and drones. The state government has said shark experts had estimated the predator to be a great white shark at least 3 meters in length. Based on footage of the incident by members of the public, several passerbys who witnessed the scene have described vicious, frenzied attack. The person was swimming. The shark came up and attacked them vertically, Chris Linto told the 9 News. We heard a yell, turned around. It looked like a car had launched in the water, a big splash, then the shark. One man recounted how he'd been fishing on the rocks when he saw the swimmer get dragged under. It was terrible. I'm shaking. I kept vomiting. It was very, very upsetting. Authorities managed to retrieve body parts from the water 2 hours after the attack. The area state MP Michael Daly said locals were shaken by the horrific incident. Victims have been a regular visitor. He had come here and swam nearly every day. It's a beautiful day at one of Sydney's most beautiful beaches, but there's a real dark pall hanging over a community today.
Wow. That's any idea where he came from? If they got the nets out there?
No, they didn't really have anything more than that. I mean, nets can come down that can work around the nets. I think I don't think the nets are up all year. Are they? Don't they take those down?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was a scuba diver, but was he in his scuba gear when he did this?
It sounded like he was swimming.
Yeah.
That's what the one guy said.
Yeah. So he was probably swimming to keep in shape.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, 60 years. It had been 60 years since they had a fatal shark attack there.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So a great history of not having them. It's unfortunate that this happened.
Well,
Yep. Don't look like food. I mean, this is what it comes down to, and it's hard when you're in certain situations. So our thoughts go out to his family, and yeah, hopefully there's something to be learned from this.
it'll be interesting if they do a follow-up. See, did they find something like nets were down, or heaven forbid another attack?
Yeah. Rough one. So this next article that we have here, this one's from the Scuba News. The world's first standards for a bailout CCR course. With the announcement of the world's first standards for a bailout rebreather diving course, DiveSoft continues to be the industry leader in scuba tech diving gear. And how do you spot a press release? By that. And if you look at the byline, it says by DiveSoft. To ensure safety during long dives, divers need to take extra measures, precautions. For instance, in the case of catastrophic rebreather failure, such as a broken scrubber, divers need to use backup gas and bail out to open circuit. This is not ideal, however, considering the number of bottles the diver needs to carry for such an emergency. To prevent this, recently consensus has been to use a bailout rebreather instead. It's not an easy feat using a bailout rebreather, which is why Liberty side mount instructor Matthew Jevon and DiveSoft factory trainer Jacob, oh my goodness, there's a lot of scratches on that name, Semantic jumped in the opportunity to develop standards for a bailout rebreather diving course, and their work was then adopted and used by TDI, Technical Diving International, for the bailout CCR course, becoming the first bailout instructors. Is a great achievement for Matt and Jacob, and their efforts haven't ceased. The pair continues to create instructional material, improving the course to cater towards future students, needing to ensure that it's as useful as possible. The pilot training currently is in progress, will be available soon.
What is a CCR bailout? You mean a duplicate to what you're already doing?
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out. I read through this a little bit earlier, and so
because since they've been around so long, why is this suddenly a big deal? One would have thought that over the last 20 years or plus, they would have thought about something different. I'm not a CCR person. My only one was 30 years ago with a Beckman Electrolong. Like that, more than 30 years ago.
Well,
so I'm not sure what that is.
Well, so let's take a look at traditional rebreather. So you've got your diluent, if I'm pronouncing it right. You got your diluent, which is your air, and then you've got your oxygen. So you're depending on how you mix that, and then you can also do your diluent. I think can have a variety of mixes, and do not take what I'm saying as instruction. I am not CCR certified or a trainer, but you've got to plan. If that rebreather fails for whatever reason, you're supposed to go open circuit, which you can flip a lever, and now you're breathing off that diluent. Is that what you remember, Mac?
Yes.
So you're breathing off the diluent. So
I've done a couple, and that's what I understand.
Yeah, because you've got the two tanks on there, and they're depending on the rebreather, they're fairly small tanks. But the reason you can get hours and hours and hours underwater is because you've got your sorb packs, and you're scrubbing and you're removing some of the carbon out of there, and you augment it with depending on the system, you're augmenting it with oxygen, and that will get you some additional time. But you have to plan. So if you're going to dive for 3 hours, you have to plan for the worst case scenario. Where's your callback? In your cave diving, and you have to plan for not being able to. You have to bail out open. So you're going to go through what little bit of gas you have in your rebreather in an open circuit, and then you have to have stage bottles to get yourself out. So you could have 5-6 stage bottles. If you're 2 or 3 hours into a cave, you got to get back out, and you have to plan that the rebreather's not there. So I believe what they're doing in this is that you would have a rebreather as your bailout.
Interesting. And like you said, depending on the type of diving you're doing, if you're in a cave and you had a failure, maybe a rebreather like that would be the way, because you'd have more time to get back out and deco.
Mm-hmm.
If you were outside of a cave where you can make a free ascent, one might think you would have a bailout bottle of gas like I carry.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it fails, then I got it. And the only problem there, of course, is your bailout's probably going to be smaller than your eco time, because you're normally down there longer than we are.
Yep. So you're going to have to stage bottles, because you can't carry that many bottles normally. So you're going to have them along the course, and have to have somebody come back and pull them out. So like when they're doing a lot of cave expedition, precaution, for instance, in the case of a catastrophic rebreather failure, such as a broken scrubber, divers need to use backup gas and bail out to an open circuit. That's not ideal, however, considering the number of bottles a diver needs to carry for such emergencies. To prevent this, recently consensus has been to use a bailout rebreather instead. So it sounds like it's a full rebreather as a bailout rebreather, which is great if you're a rebreather manufacturer because you've just sold a second rebreather.
I can really see that if I'm cave diving or in a place that I can't do an ascent.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, a real big gas bottle to at least get me up to the surface would be what I would think I'd carry. I mean, that's got to be friggin' expensive.
Yeah, you either you'd have to be able to get to the surface in a reasonable amount of time, or have adequate plans for somebody to drop you some additional gas, which I think some tech diving that can be arranged.
It'll be interesting to see if we have any follow up on that one,
mm-hmm.
and maybe we can do a little research and come back and do some feedback on it.
Yeah. So that was a good one. That was on the Scuba News, as written by Divesoft. So, let's see. Do they say who Divesoft is? Divesoft continues to be the industry leader in scuba tech diving gear. Do they have a link? Learn more about Divesoft at divesoft.com. Take a peek here. Yeah, they make a rebreather. I'm not familiar with them as a rebreather company. They're not one of them that I hear many people talk about.
Yeah.
Analyzer looks interesting.
Yep.
Some computers.
I'll be right back. Yeah. That's your mother.
Yeah, some interesting gear they have there at Divesoft. I notice everything else has a buy.
Did you know you left the TV on?
Are you waiting for me?
I was hitting some buttons, so yeah, kind of waiting for you, but just not as good as stalling as I should be. Put a marker in there so I can edit that out later. Yeah, $10,000. I mean, that's in the you eight to 8. I think 8 to 18 is about what you would pay for a rebreather.
A little salty. But again, depending on what you're doing and how much you're diving, save your life.
Okay. Well, here, look at this. This one here is a back mount rebreather. So that's $9,750. And then they have this one they're calling side mount. Would you like to pass through tight passages, or do you need a secondary rebreather? So that must be what they're referring to right there. There's only side mount rebreather with everything on board. It makes it completely standalone unit. Just take and go diving without the need for any offboard additions. And when it is needed when possible, use a secondary or bailout rebreather.
That sounds like what they want you to have.
Yeah.
And it looks compact enough, because I was trying to figure out how would you do a double vest for your BC, but that makes sense.
Yeah. You're going to have a little bit smaller pack. Looks like they're combining. I mean, it's hard to see. Can I turn that?
I was going to say, I don't see how the mouthpiece is on that one or how you access it.
Yeah.
Like, do you keep the gas on all the time? So when you inhale the first time, you've got air?
Side mount Rebreather, everything on board. So it is completely standalone, but it also looks like it could, maybe it plumbs into the other. Yeah, it'd be, it might be something to have somebody come on and who knows something to talk about it, because I could see that as being a value if it's a completely redundant system. It's kind of like diving, tech diving with doubles. You've got, if you make everything redundant, a lot of maintenance. Yeah. Yeah. Some, yeah. Boy, a lot of maintenance. It feels like a lot of maintenance, a lot of money, but you're in the, yes. Okay. The size. Okay. Here we go. Good news in Q3 scuba diving certifications of the first 9 months. This is from Scubanomics. It's published on medium.com. Entry-level open water certifications rebounded in the USA in Q2 and Q3, but still below pre-pandemic levels. After disastrous 2020 and a rough 2021, the last 6 months, April through September, have shown that there may be light at the end of the tunnel. Diving certifications in Q1, January to March, first quarter, witnessed a decline in entry-level scuba diving, 16% over 2021 and 20.4 lower than 2019. The first quarter had only gotten partial impact from the COVID-19 pandemic. Although the virus was in the news at the end of 2019, tourism only started to be significantly impacted to the end of the first quarter. Yeah, if you remember back that far, we were kind of in denial that this was going to be much of anything. So you had, we started seeing some cases. I mean, the cases probably happened in November, December, but, January, February, March, I think I was at a robotics event. And then right after that event, everything got shut down and it really didn't open up in any capacity for almost a full year.
Well, I thought this was interesting because it's the first time I'd seen a comparison of the economics for diving, meaning how many people were getting into it, how many were leaving.
Yeah.
It didn't help us out a lot, that's for sure.
No. Yeah, scuba certifications in Q2, April to June. For the first time since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, certifications were up in the USA year over year in the second quarter. So this is showing the second quarter. So, in 2017, I think his name's Darcy. I think I've communicated with him in the past on other stuff. Yeah, Darcy Kirian. They had almost 30,000 in 2017, 26,000 in 2018, 28,000 in 2019, 22,000 in 2020, and then 18,600 in 2021. So 2019, there might have been a little impact because it's possible that could have been trending towards the 2017 numbers. But 2020 was down as you'd expect, and then 2021 even more. It's interesting that 2021 was down, but 2021 was down more. Is it just people had fatigue? Because, you're still in the pandemic in 2020. So, it's 2021, first quarter, January, February, March. Vaccines are starting to come out. Maybe people are waiting to get their shots. Yep, and then here showing the Q2 numbers, April, May, and June. You can see 2021 was really starting to rebound. And I think that'd be part result of vaccinations and some loose, travel restrictions play a huge part in this. People are getting certifications because they're going to go on a vacation or a trip. They want to dive.
What that does not show, though, is the loss of divers who, for whatever reason, stopped diving during that basic 2-year period.
I would bet it was a net loss.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've got,
I have seen other items.
Age of divers. Your older divers are leaving the industry for health reasons or passing away. Yep. So there's some numbers. So if you compare, 222% increase 2021 over 2020. That's a huge number. Percentages, so you always got to watch out with stats when they do percentages. And then Q3, July to September, increased again. And I would expect this year we should see some significant increases. So scuba certifications.
Interesting to see what it is.
Yeah. And then he offered
Both of the first stats I've seen over a long time.
Yeah.
So I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, he'd be interesting to have on and talk. I don't personally know him, but like I said, I followed some of his research and stuff. I think he's part of a larger group. Do they say in here? Yeah. Also from Darcy Kim and the Business of Diving Institute. So I've heard of that as well. Yeah, right there. So some good numbers. Good numbers there. Make sure I hit the right button here. Ice hole. Not the most
it's a catchy phrase.
Hey, are you an ice hole? Is that what somebody would say? So Ice Hole Festival in Sioux Falls, South Dakota creates excitement, draws flock of scuba divers for the past 5 years. This article was published on February 14th. Releases a press release the 15th. So the Ice Hole Festival started as a bucket list checkoff. A new diver walked into the International Scuba in Carlton, Texas. He asked if anyone had any info about diving under the ice. Richard Thomas, owner of the chain in Texas dive stores, International Scuba, called his friends in Dakota, who have lots of ice. Friday night ice hole cutting and bonfire have become legendary. Includes pizza, drinks that warm your hearts and toes, and a bonfire on the ice. Meeting at Colonel Eccles of Land Shark Scuba in Sioux Falls. They organized the first weekend of ice diving. Locals showed up to support the effort and get a good laugh at the crazy Texans willing to freeze in negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit the afternoon. Turned out the joke was on everyone. They had so much fun and bonded while completing an extreme sport that the pact has made the repeat year, and the locals would also take the plunge. Since then, the event has grown every year, now draws certified scuba divers from Canada, Mexico, Florida, Arkansas, Texas, Illinois, California. According to Thomas, the unique nature of the environment seems to really attract southern scuba divers that want to test their skills in the harsh environment. The mission of the Ice Hole Dive Fest is to create a gathering of scuba divers who want to expand their skill set, also fostering working relationship with scuba dive centers at reaches of North America. To get started in the shop, sponsors an ice diving instructor. They're now considered a stakeholder. They can benefit each year because the infrastructure is already in place. In future years, scuba dive shops just need to reserve the space. It makes sense. I think this is a great marketing opportunity for the dive industry. Because if you're a southern shop, you have to come up with things to keep your hardcore guys interested, and then you can harass them a little bit. Can you ice dive? Can you get in the water? Can you do that? I don't think you can. So
I could look at it from the macho part.
yeah, there you go.
And you handle that.
Yeah,
New skill.
yeah. You could do is you could have like a little bucket there with ice water and taking. How long can you put your hand in? You couldn't put your whole body in. So, because you think about the certifications, because your southern divers, I mean, you can do it in a wetsuit. You know, we've done ice dives in wetsuits, but you're probably going to want a dry suit. So, you know, you could sell or rent the gear. You've got the certifications for the gear that you can do. You can host a trip, and then you get divers out. So for a dive shop, this is a great deal. So,
Wow.
yeah. And you notice you don't see northern locations because they already have ice. Yeah, Michigan, we're not heading over there because we've got ice normally, sometimes.
Well, you go a little north, you can get some ice.
Yeah. Well, we can drive. I guess I should say we can drive much closer to get ice than they have to drive all that way out there. So,
Wow.
So cool. Glad to see it. That people are getting in there and doing it. They say all scuba certifications cost $100. That seems kind of inexpensive.
Yeah, collectively it does. Because up here, I think normally you're going to wind up doing 3 dives, or 3 dives as part of that. Talking about ice dives, I think it was tonight. They were having an ice diving class in Bridgman.
Yeah.
And I think it was from H2O. So it was basically a pool class for ice diving, which still makes sense. I mean, it's a non-threat. All the basics can be covered. And it gives you a lot better basis than going out there on the ice trying to do an initial course without this background.
Yeah, it's good to have the background, and you just describe it and make sure everybody's got the, check out the gear that they have.
All right. Do tethering.
Yeah. So
line pulls would be good.
Yeah. So this is happening this weekend. So it starts tomorrow, February 18th, and goes to the 20th. So I'm always up for a good party.
So you want to take a trip up there, is what you're saying?
Oh, I do. Probably not for the next couple of years. Oh. But sometime I wouldn't mind going. So here's another one from Scuba News. It says the Scuba News press team. I'm going to guess this is also I'm not quite called a native ad, but this is a Kickstarter project that somebody's come up with. Scientists and engineers have developed revolutionary new folding fins. For decades, fins have been heavy, bulky, and difficult to transport. Nobody thought solving the problem, nor had any significant idea for it. Moreover, the material available in the market had not given a way to create optimal solutions so far. Reload this. Yeah, for some reason those aren't showing up. When the opportunity arose, a group of engineers, scientists decided to take a challenge in creating the solution folding fins. I'm going to go, let's show a different page. So this is the folding fins that they're talking about. It might be hard to see on your screen, but there's a hinge down the middle up here at the top. And it's like, it's almost like your split fin. You've got 2 edges, but then in between it, it's almost like a web. I think they're trying to mimic fish, kind of how fish would have their fins.
The video was quite interesting of how the propulsion aspect works. We also talked about it's a lot easier to pack it for your trips because now it'll fold in half.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. Is that heck, now you can have your fins in a duffel bag, just kind of. I mean, mine are in a duffel bag, but it's not your airport carry-on duffel bag. It's a dive gear duffel bag, but yeah, it makes compact.
Yeah, user friendly.
Yep. So they go into some details how they came up with it. They're basing it on biomimicry. They said, how do the fins perform an action? You saw a video? I didn't see a video of it.
It's in there. I don't know if you want to try to click on it yourself right now, though.
Yeah. But, yeah, because I saw this and I'm like, okay, let's find out a little bit more about it. But it's a Kickstarter project and it hasn't started yet. So we'll get an eye on it. I don't have any idea how much these cost. So, oh, here they're showing. Get this up. So they kind of show there in this.
Yeah, for those people who are listening to this as opposed to watching it, it's a little awkward.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, all that dead air. But it's interesting how people in really tight-fitting swimsuits really love these fins. Must be old fat people can't wear these. I'm out. Yeah. Yeah, we're just scrolling through the marketing material. It's a group out of Poland, I think, who's doing this. You know, I want to say they're trying too hard, which either means it's not possible or it's going to be really expensive. Yeah, there's a... We'll have to see. I think the reason it's... Oh, here it is, down here. Folding fins, $149. Yeah, I think that's a little pricey, wouldn't you say, Mac? What kind of fin can you...
Actually, some of the newer ones...
Are they getting up there?
In that price range, yeah.
I'm trying to say, I think for my old style, black heavy fins, I probably paid close to $150.
Well, I know my last pair of the heavy duty ones I paid $100 for, and they're about 30 years old.
Yeah.
In good shape.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's going to be if you're traveling and they work. That little snap there, I'm kind of concerned that snap that they showed up there might not. Let's see if we can pull it up again. Yeah, that snap right there is what I'm wondering about. Is that going to hold up? So, yeah, I like to hold one, try it out. I don't do a lot of air travel, but if I did and I was taking my own fins. Wonder, do they have, what's the size? Oh, so yeah, it is sized for you. Well, I wonder how about fitting on a dry suit?
Those don't look like they're going to fit on a dry suit.
No. Yeah, they've got a little heel piece. So this is really meant for warm water diving. Yeah. Okay. So, an interesting product. I think if it works out well, they've got something. And how about this next one, Mac? You had the
BC one?
Yeah,
that's the one I'm curious
Avlo
about.
Solution. Meet the Avlo Hydro Tank. The lean,
Yeah.
high-capacity, ultra-durable scuba tank with integrated buoyancy control feature. Weight, what? Our lightweight tank is buoyant, so become lighter or heavier by using water from its environment. Its operating concept is like a submarine that adds or removes water to maintain neutral buoyancy. Once neutral buoyancy is achieved, it remains neutrally buoyant for long periods of time. This form of buoyancy is ultra-stable, not affected by ascending or descending. The concept changes everything about scuba diving. Imagine walking in the water carrying one of our lightweight systems. On the water's surface, you float because you have no weights and the hydro tank is buoyant. When you're ready to dive, you press a button and water is pumped into the hydro tank around the inner bladder. When you feel neutrally buoyant, you stop the pump and swim down with 20 to 25 minutes of perfect neutral buoyancy without changing anything. You can ascend or descend freely without feeling like you're being pulled up or down. After 25 minutes, you consume enough gas mass to become a little buoyant. You turn the pump on again for 20 to 30 seconds. The water in the hydro tank replaces the mass of the gas you've consumed, and you experience another 25 minutes of pure underwater zen. Repeat until it's time to get back on the boat. At the end of the dive, you open your purge valve, and all the water from the hydro tank is released. You're a buoyant lightweight, making the climb back aboard a breeze. I think that's an interesting idea.
I like to see how it works.
Yeah.
I hear what they're saying, but I don't quite comprehend what they're saying. It didn't really show me that.
Yeah.
I'd also be curious about the price of it too.
Well, yeah, you don't want to make it more complicated. I'm trying to think from a safety standpoint, because you always want to be able to bail out. Is there a chance that this becomes negatively buoyant?
I don't know.
Because if you ditch your weights and you're still sinking, then you're in a whole world of hurt.
Yeah.
You know, what's the failure mode to the tank?
Well, according to that, you don't have any weights to ditch.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing.
And if you had rough seasons, it's like, I'd like to see what that really feels like in the water, how it does in wave action. You know, Lake Cora, Pawpaw Lake, maybe fine. How does that work on a boat where you got rough water? I'm curious about the positive buoyancy aspect on the surface.
And we may be overthinking it because you probably don't need. Well, water's going to weigh the same as water. So how much water do you have to put in there? Or
I still haven't figured out where they put the water.
in the tank.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So if they put the water in the tank,
Well, it's kind of like, you know, and
has it got a bladder on the inside?
I think it's got to have
elastic bladder that.
It's either got to have a bladder or it's got a tank within the tank. I mean, it's got to have one or the other. So you've got to, yeah. I think it's got to have a bladder. Could you imagine
on that sucker?
Yeah, it's just thinking the same thing. How you gonna do your inspection? If you can get the safety and everything dialed in,
it sounds interesting, but it's one of those items. Let me play with that sucker.
Yeah. How can it be abused? I mean, say you drained your tank too far down and you get to the surface and you don't have air to purge the tank. That could be bad.
Well, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do all the stupid things that people do that's dangerous. So the average tank, and I'm trying to think if buoyancy of the tank really affects me that much. I mean, you obviously have to account for it, but you've got a BC on. I mean,
the BC is not inflated. That's not an issue.
Right. But I bet this is aimed for newer divers. But then it's
Back
another.
in the day,
Mhm.
back in the day, we didn't have BCs. We had a weight belt.
Yeah.
We seemed to compensate pretty good with the weight belt.
Yeah. Your BC's just
I had
your
a Navy
elevator.
safety vest, a Navy safety vest, which you did not inflate on the water. That's if you got up topside and you needed it, you could inflate it orally or pull the CO2 cartridge, and then you were going up.
Yeah.
It didn't even have a relief valve on it.
But you also didn't do. I mean, you weren't wearing the gear you are now. I mean, you didn't like load yourself
I was not
up.
wearing a dry suit. No.
Yeah. You didn't load up a bunch of, snap this on, snap that on, have your catch bag.
Your camera, yeah. Your batteries for your lights. Like to see what that really feels like, works with.
So traditional equipment, they're comparing against an 80 cylinder. And then they're saying theirs is 106. But I think they're getting 106 by overpressurizing it if you look at the fill pressure.
So how can you overpressurize it?
Well, they've designed it for higher pressure. So the 80, they're comparing at 3,000 PSI, and they're saying it's a 80 to 106 cubic foot, but that's because of the increased pressure. They're doing 4,300.
And who can go 4,300?
Well, you got to find a shop that'll do high pressure fills.
Yeah.
So components. So it's got a battery and a pump and a regulator. So.
And they won't fail, right?
Yeah, none of that stuff fails. Well, your failure mode is just you have to make sure. I mean, they're not saying ditch your. Well, are they saying ditch your BC? Because
we're not wearing a BC there.
Well, but is that a wing in her back? Is that a wing under the tank? Are they doing a smaller wing?
Doesn't look like it to me.
I think that's a wing on her back, like that's a back plate with a wing he's got. Or is that maybe not the back of the wing? Oh, is that this? Oh, yeah. See, the tank is on a back plate, but I think the back plate isn't. That's for their others. The pump, I think, is what that is. Hydro tank, battery, pump, regulator. So one side's the battery, one side's the pump. And then they probably got a regulator. Purge valve. Well, what this just brings to mind is with electronics and this sort of system, why not have a small wing? You're just automating buoyancy so whoever the diver is wouldn't have to think about it. Yeah, here they're showing that bladder type. Is that a bladder?
I couldn't tell if that was a paint job or a bladder. Looks like a paint job to me.
Well, they're trying to show that they're opening up the tank. So you see in the top, it's almost like a tank within a tank. What's that made out of? Yeah, it doesn't say. Learn more in our fact. It'd be interesting to see. I'd like to see one of these, maybe play around with it.
Absolutely.
Do not use gear without proper training. Does this exist? Do they say you buy this now? Okay, so here's the question. Where can I buy it? We work with dive shops that offer Evelo training services, access to Evelo systems, equipment maintenance. So they're going to do this as part of a whole training plan. In 2022, we will work with a small group of early adopting dive shops and resort destinations. We plan to work with an increasing number of dive businesses beginning in 2023. It will be competitive with standard scuba systems. So that's code from it's as expensive as we can charge for it. I'm in the business world. I'm in those meetings.
You have little faith.
I am. I'm getting the grizzled old pessimist. Because you're added complexity. You can't tell me that's more than a tank. You can't convince me that a tank with a battery and a pump and everything else is the same. So the only way that they could make that statement come true is if you don't need the buoyancy vest anymore. You think you can swap stuff out, but yeah, I'd want to know what the failure modes are. Does the Avlo team have a problem with BCDs? Not at all. Yeah. So they're pitching this as an alternative to the BCD. It's possible. Yep. So press release. We'll watch out for it. If we hear anything more, we'll let you know. See what the chat room has said.
Oh, we're more than happy. They can send us one. We can check it out and give our opinion there. Yeah. Happy to do that.
Yeah. When we were talking about the certifications, they said couldn't get in the pools, which that's true. Karen was saying if you couldn't do a course if you couldn't get in a pool for your pool training. Very true. So that does it for Scuba in the News. I feel like I should ask if anybody's gotten in the water, but I almost know what the answer is. I'm going to say no.
I don't know of anybody locally that's been in the water. We do have a couple of club members who have gotten wet, but they've been on boats or on trips down into the warm, sunny places.
Yeah, warm, sunny places would do it.
So we've had a couple get out there, but nothing local. Now, if you want to get some skiing in with your dive gear, hey, wear your dry suit skiing. That's one way to get some time in.
Okay. Was somebody doing that? Was that Kevin?
No, I don't think so, but they could.
Oh.
And they could say, well, we got the gear, a little bit of the gear in use.
Yeah.
You can fill that up so when you fell, you can bounce and you wouldn't hurt yourself.
What are you filling it up with? Water?
Well, have a little bit of, a bailout bottle, a little argon in your suit.
Oh, argon. Ooh. Talk about...
Okay, maybe not argon.
Okay.
Something to give you some warmth.
Warmth.
Use air.
Yeah. You always do a fart fill. That'll warm me up. Argon. Yeah, that's a little chilly, but...
It only hurts for a little while.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yes. Well, okay. So do you have a dive safety story for this week?
Really don't have a safety story per se, just an add-on to last week where we talked about, we always say stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I've sort of changed that around. It's think safe, stay safe. And as part of that, I just went through a bunch of little items saying the top 10, top 8, top 21 items you should remember as a scuba diver. And it really comes down to what we hopefully everybody does. Verify your gear is working before you get into the freaking water. Is your air on? Did you verify your regulators working? Did you check your pressure gauge to see if it fluctuates when you breathe? Did you hook up your dry suit hose? Did you try the valve? Is it working? Is your BC connected? Is it working? And how often did you check your dump valves? Because a lot of people will burp it a little bit, but did you, for the heck of it, did you try to vent it? And did your buddy do the same checks that you're doing? And a key item I always say is there is not a darn thing wrong with having an alternate air source when you're diving. But the bottom line to me is if you got air, you got time, which means if you know you got some air, you're less likely to panic. You got a little extra, oh, wait a minute, I got this to go with. Other items, if you always come up slowly, and there's nothing wrong with doing a safety stop, even if a deco stop is not required. Lots of places say every 20 feet, deco or not, you come up and you take a little break. Makes sense. The item is strive for safety for yourself and your buddy. And like we always preach, never ever be afraid to abort a dive for any reason whatsoever. So always think safe, stay safe.
Yep. Good points. I mean, that kind of goes kind of a common pull it all together of many of the things that we have said over time.
Yeah. And again, I keep saying, how often have you practiced your drills? You know, out of air, lost your mask, your buddy's lost. How often have you done those? It's not a bad idea. That's not when I say a bad idea. You ought to be doing it, guys.
So how was the dive meeting this week?
We had, the weather was not really great. The roads were sucky. So we didn't have our normal larger attendance. But we did have, actually we had some from out of state come back in, which was a little dicey. They had a place to spend the night.
Okay.
They did not plan on coming up and then going back tonight because that would not have been much fun. Karen did bring along some of her wares that she sells.
Okay.
She has those nice dive pins we talked about. So she had a wide assortment of different items for people to take a look at to see this is what we were talking about at the podcast last week.
Right.
These are some items for you. And some of those are really nice gifts down the road. You know, Christmas, birthdays, attaboys, that kind of stuff. And that's where we talked about and heard they had that ice diving a little late for us for either Bridgman Pools. We did some sales for the tickets for the show coming up on the 26th, Diver Showcase. Save a little money by buying your tickets early.
Okay.
So, and we had this time we had a little longer quiz, 10 questions on how well do you know the Great Lakes. And you could walk away embarrassed.
Oh.
But it was good and educational.
Let's see, I'm going to put up the, you'd mentioned Karen's pen, so let's put up one of them right there.
Yep, I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, yeah, it was nice to see that people get together. I wouldn't say I'm in the middle. I'm in the early middle or pre-middle of robotic season. So we're in crunch time. And then today was a snow day for a meeting. They had school, but then they canceled after school activities. So puts a little crimp in our robot building time.
I wish it would stay cold and stay cold so we could actually have some ice, that or get warm and stay warm. Yeah. With that melt today, I bet the river is screaming.
Oh, yeah, between the rain and the melt, I'm sure it is.
Yep.
And not a pretty screaming either. It's going to be pretty sloppy, junky.
I haven't been down to Niles to take a look, but I would be very surprised if it's not very fast and very high.
Yeah, I didn't really take a look today, but I bet it is. Okay. Do we have anything we want to plug? We got the Shipwreck Festival coming up next weekend.
Right, 26th.
26th.
I think that's a major one we've got. I mean, you know, the ghost ships, that's gone by the wayside. Our World Underwater pretty much has gone by the wayside.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on Our World. So they're not coming back, or?
I haven't heard anything, so I'm assuming not.
Yeah. Wow, that had been going on forever. And that, I
Yeah.
think they had started, they were going to do like a second and a third one, weren't they, expanding down south? And
Well, they were out in California way, as I recollect.
yeah,
So they did have two.
okay. Yeah, so that's pretty sad if they have gone, but it's hard. I mean, how do you, who wants to front the money when you don't know if it's going to go through? And you got to get the people to show and everything else. So, you know,
COVID is not helping.
no.
Even the travel was, I mean, nobody's traveling. Well, they're starting to now, but not the same.
Yeah, well, hopefully people get back into it. When I got into diving, I was thinking that with everybody getting so obsessed with virtual worlds, the real world will actually become a novelty. So I had thought this would happen years ago, but maybe after COVID that will. You know, a whole nother generation of people saying, let's get out and try something. So, I think we just talked about everything we wanted to plug. Is there anything else? We'll do one quick check of the chat room. And I believe it would be that time of the show.
Yeah.
So we had indicated earlier that we had something. So are you ready, Mac?
I'm sitting down.
Okay. Two fish swim into a concrete wall. One turns to the other and says, damn.
I like that one.
I
I
tripped.
see that.
Yeah. I tripped and hit my head on a snare drum. Now I think I have a percussion.
Actually, those are pretty good.
It's been a bit of a strange day today. First, I found a hat full of money. Then I was chased by an angry man with a guitar. Yeah. Yeah, I think if I was a man with a guitar, I might be a little ticked too.
Well, if it was a blind guy, you'd have a better chance of getting away.
I don't know. He could be fast. Yep.
Blind guys have much trouble finding you.
Yeah. So on that note, go out there and get wet.
And think safe, stay safe. And we have the fanfare.
Ta-da, there it goes. So we fade to that. So thank you everybody once again who's in the chat room. And I need to get all
The
the
diehards.
diehards in there. Oh, yep. Dave says it passed. Mac liked it. Oh, yeah. She said she, if I can read, it's a 3. I almost said it was an 8. Sold 3 pens and a whistle. Wait staff bought pens. There you go. That's some fancy pens. A lot of pictures of flooding on the Facebook feed. I haven't seen any, but I wouldn't be surprised. And then, because what had happened here at the house is any place that the snow had been like compacted turned to ice.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, the snow went away. So my driveway and my steps up to, like, I don't even have steps. I have a path that goes up to the house. And that is like icy, icy, icy. And now we got snow on top of it. So it'll be fun in the morning if I forget that it's icy and all my butt.
These are the times I really enjoy being retired.
Yeah.
I don't have to get up and shovel before I go to freaking work.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I can't imagine that I used to be at work at least 6:45, especially if I was teaching the class.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes got to be earlier.
Yeah.
But it's like, how did I do that?
Oh, no. Like today.
Well, probably I go to bed earlier.
Yeah. So today, you know, I start getting ready for work at 7. And then I got home from work at 9. My wife said, "Oh, you're early." It was 8:30 p.m. So, yeah, it's long days.
But you're having fun, right?
Well, I mean, I like what I do, but I'd like it if it was a little shorter in between everything. But it's just that time of the year with everything all going. So, yeah, that's my next job, is working from home. I'm kind of tempted to start hunting. Oh, we didn't talk about in the show, but I see that they're going to run fiber optic cables through our area.
Oh,
So it was announced, the South Bend Tribune covered it, and it was mentioning Berrien County and Orinoco Township. So there was some grants and stuff, and Orinoco is going to be one of the first ones for it. But I've been hearing this. They've got stuff lined up, but it's kind of like, well, who's going to pay for it?
yeah.
So somehow it sounds like they've come up with a way to do that, but we'll see. I've been there, done that, heard that before. So, but because what I think, if I was a small community that wanted to get a strong real estate base, what my wife and I have been noticing on TV and a lot of these home programs, like these house hunters type show, is you're starting to see professionals who maybe they live in San Francisco or Charleston or Austin, and the business has allowed them to work from home. And then those people are moving back to where they grew up, so they have family to help them take care of the kids and do stuff, because they can work anywhere. I mean, the reason you go to those big cities is because you're drawn in by, I make another $30,000 there.
You're going to cost you 25 to live there.
Well, yeah, we were looking, and the homes were, cheap was $650,000 and expensive was $780,000 for.
How do you live in California? I do not know.
And they weren't even in California. I want to say they were in like Minnesota. So it's like these big cities. There's only so many desirable properties, and people have just decided that they want them, and you got the supply and demand going on there. But I don't know how they're able to afford it. Well, they're able to afford it because they're both working high pressure jobs, making $90,000 a year. They're not living any better. It's still money in, money out. And you can look at the homes, and there's like, extra little doodads. One had an elevator. It was and this one was South Carolina. We noticed that all the homes, the main living, like what you had, the ground floor was typically a garage, and then the living area was a second and a third. Is that normal in South Carolina? Is it because of maybe flooding or something? Why that would be? But
by the coast, maybe. I've seen that around the Barrier Islands.
Yeah,
on the shorelines, but not inland.
It was, yeah.
You don't even have basements.
Yeah, well, they didn't have basements, but they all seemed to have garage. Like they'd have these big central steps that would go up, and they would have like a garage door on both sides of the steps. But that whole bottom level was basically a garage, and then you would enter a main level, and then you'd have bedrooms in the top. And I was just thought, maybe it's just fancy people houses, but.
Oh, well,
yep.
I've never been in one of those myself.
Mm-hmm.
When we lived down there, it was a ranch type, no basement, sandy soil. Everybody in our neighborhood had the same.
Okay. Good thing satellites are falling from the sky. Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit. Did you hear about that, Mac?
Well, you saw the solar storm that
Mhm.
knocked a lot of the micro, or what they consider small satellites.
Yeah.
And I think the small ones were weighing, what, 50, 60 pounds?
Yeah. Well, they also got SpaceX and their Starlink. And what had happened is the SpaceX did a little bit different orbit this time. And then they typically are in a lower orbit and they're letting the satellites spread out. And then they raise them to an upper orbit. And when they raise them to an upper orbit, they're on a different angle.
Yeah.
So it was just bad timing. The solar storm came. It created enough. So what they did is they went into a safe mode. So by going into a safe mode, they kind of turned, and then they had a hard time getting them out of that safe mode, and then they didn't have enough energy.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of solar panels and they're accelerating gas to get them to a higher orbit, and so some satellites couldn't make it. The ones that hadn't already started to the higher orbits didn't quite have enough. So it was probably two or three. There are two or three things they did wrong. Any one of them they could have survived, but the fact that all three of them happened at the same time kind of doomed them. So yeah, it had to hurt a little bit. I saw some numbers that didn't add up. They were going, oh, it's $250,000 a satellite and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. They're getting pretty inexpensive at launching that stuff, and some of the other cost saves. It's all accounting anyway.
Well, I wonder, do you get insurance on those?
I think you could, like the small, maybe not the small CubeSats, but like if you're going to do a launch, you would have, it depends on what policy you have, but you would typically, it's unusual for the company launching it to also own the satellites. Because SpaceX is doing it all for themselves. So I'm guessing that they did not insure those just because to save money. I mean, how many successful launches? And they've had over 100 and got to be 150 the last launches. I mean, I know they've landed the last 100 boosters they've landed.
Yeah.
So they're doing really well and picking up some good contracts. So yeah, I think I'm betting they didn't insure them and they're just like, oh crap. So.
Well, I'm going to leave you bees for now.
Okay. Yep. I'm going
try to get some more topics for you for next week, so you don't have to sweat that stuff.
Oh, that helps out a ton, especially now in this robotics build season.
That's really fair. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I'll try to pick out another 5 good ones.
Yep. Yep. Because I mean, to me, I think 5 overall, and I added a couple in there, and then I picked a few of yours, and then Dave had one, so that helps out. Now I just need to edit. I'm getting it. I want to make some transitions. I want to have it to where I don't have to edit anything after. I just take I record what we're doing here, and that gets posted. So that's the goal. That will save a ton of time. So. Okay. Yep. I gotta do that sometime. Oh, we got another season already, darn it. Like I just paid for last season. Oh. Time I gotta. Yeah. There you go. Sounds good. Thanks. Bye.